Okay, man.
All right. Hey, Flesh and Bones.
What's up, man? How's it going?
What's up, dude? Hey, what's your
Not-
actual name?
So I'm Jordan. That's my
Nice. Well, nice to meet you, Jordan.
yeah.
Dude,
You too.
love your channel, love your content, love that you're in the community. My actual name, for anybody who didn't know, is Louis.
Yeah, that's my
From
son's name.
Is it? That's
Yeah.
cool.
Yep.
Is he
Yep.
what number is he? Is he the first Louis?
He's the first one. Yeah. Actually, he's named after my great great grandfather, who was really important to our family. So we named him after him.
That's cool.
He's Louis though.
Yeah, that's my official name, but
Oh, okay.
I just go by Louis because my dad. So I'm Louis the fourth in my
Oh,
family.
wow. Awesome.
Yeah, so when me and my grandpa and my dad were in the same area, somebody would say Louis, and we'd all respond. I mean, it was a disaster. So then they would say Louis, and so then I started going by Louis. So
Gotcha.
that's how that happened in my family. But
That's probably what he'll end up doing too, because he gets the Lewis when he's in trouble. So
poor
he'll want to be Louis like Louie as well.
poor kid's gonna grow up with people singing him that stupid song Louis Louis.
Oh, it's already
Oh,
happening.
it's
Yeah, it's
terrible.
already
That's the worst. That's the worst.
yeah,
Well,
man.
what's up, everybody? We're just we just decided we wanted to have a conversation. So we don't even have a script or anything. We're just going to talk a little bit about flesh and blood and a little bit about life, and we'll probably be like 30, 40 minutes. Hope you're sitting back, enjoying. We're going to post this on both our channels. We're going to hang out. So before we get into anything, make sure you go over, hit pause and go over and subscribe to each other's channels. If you're here from Kitchen Table TCG, go subscribe to Flesh and Bones. And if you're here from there, come subscribe to me, I guess is what I'm asking you to do. Uh, but man, we just want to make sure this community is growing and that all content creators are getting together and having fun. And I know I just recorded with Bronson a couple days ago. I'm gonna be on his
Yeah, I'm
channel.
doing that on Saturday with him. Funny
Nice
enough. Yeah.
drinking with Bronson, so
Yep. Yep.
it's pretty sweet. So, well, dude, that's just. Why don't we tell our stories of getting into? I'm curious. How do you get into trading card games? I mean, that's kind of where we are, right?
Well, yeah. So I talked about this on my channel in a video I did, and I got one coming up that I dive into a little bit of it too. So basically, I got into trading card games when I was like around 10 or 11. My parents had got divorced. My mom got remarried. The guy that she married was really big into coins and cards, and so was his father. And they used to set up card and coin shows. And so as a kid, I used to go with them all the time, and I was super into baseball cards and basketball cards and all that. And I started like getting closer towards like trading card games when obviously Magic was first released. There were some card games before Magic took off, and so I was there like at the beginning with Magic, and I remember the guy who still owns my local game store. I remember when he was like in his 20s, and I'm
Mm,
8 years old at the time. I'm sorry, I was 10 years old at the time. And I go up to his little booth, and he had like a tuxedo on with like a tie, and he had a Black Lotus and all the Power Nine and everything. They were all alpha and beta cards, and he had them on these little black pedestals. And like the Black Lotus was like $300.
oh my
People were
gosh,
like,
that's
this
amazing.
guy. People were like, this dude is nuts. Like he's coming to this coin and card show dressed up in a tuxedo, trying to shill these cards. I mean, they must have thought he was like early '90s Rudy or something.
Yeah,
But everyone teases Rudy about trying to shill. But yeah, so like this guy was just pushing this product, Magic, and no one gave a. So as a kid, I went up and I remember buying packs and being like, "Oh, I got a Force of Nature," and like,
yeah,
I never got any like Power Nine or anything out of a pack. But I remember opening the stuff and going like, "This game is special. Like, this is cool."
yeah.
And I was like the catalyst at my school. I brought it there and showed it to people. And then my best friend, who I showed it to, moved about 15 minutes away to a town called Clyde, Ohio, and he brought it to Clyde, and then from Clyde it Fremont to Toledo. I mean, it like I'm not
Awesome.
saying I was a catalyst for this whole area,
Yeah,
but like we were the ones that were starting to play it, and we heard that they were doing tournaments and stuff. So it was like in my general area, it was me and a few other people that really helped it grow here, which is what I've tried to do with Flesh and Blood. But local game stores around here, man, there's only one,
yeah,
and a lot of them he's too scared to kind of buy into it, and I understand with COVID,
sure.
got to stick with what sells.
I'm from
But yeah,
Canton,
that was my
Ohio.
story. I've been
Where
playing for
where
25 years.
where in Ohio are you from?
So I live near Sandusky, which is
Okay.
like
Yeah.
where Cedar Point is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we're not far from there.
Nice. So I'm from Canton, just just
Oh,
south of
sweet.
Cleveland. I'm in West Virginia now, but that's where I grew up. Um,
Okay.
so cool. Well, I got into Magic when I was in college. My that's actually great. I've never shared this. I was an RA at a Christian college, right? And
Okay.
my RD, the guy who's like over the building or whatever, he was like, "Hey, so I made a mistake and I ordered some. I thought I was ordering playing cards, but I accidentally ordered all these welcome decks for Magic the Gathering." And he was like, "I can't give them away. Like I'll get in trouble for giving them away.
Oh
So like,
yeah.
can you just take them and like, use them for something?" So like, I'm talking like like a booster box case, like 10
Yeah.
of those, 10 cases of like 2015 starter decks, like the free to play starter decks in all five
Yeah.
Magic
Yeah.
colors.
Yeah.
And so I just like started hanging out with some guys on my floor, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I love Magic the Gathering." I was like, "I've never played before, so let's figure this out." And like, you guys teach me. And so we started
Yeah.
playing, and then we started going through the welcome decks, and they were a little old, and there was a couple cards that worth a couple bucks. So then I was like, what if we just sell like all these like crappy cards and use the money and fund good decks? And so then we started playing.
See, it started early on.
I got completely addicted, dude. Like I was like that every night. I was like, we're playing, and so that's just kind of where But really, I started collecting Pokemon cards when I was a kid. I would go, my mom would take me shopping at Target, and I would go straight to the trading card aisle and just sit
Sure.
there, just like sit on the floor looking at the blisters of trading cards
Oh
until
yeah.
my mom would come back.
Well, I remember the first time I saw Magic at like Walmart. I was like, my mind was blown because
Yeah.
as a kid, like, I mean, this was probably like 96, 97 when you started seeing it in stores, and I remember going, what in the world? They're selling it here now. Like this game has made it. It's here. And the funny thing is, my wife the other day goes, I went to Target and I know you're really into that Flesh and Blood game, so I was looking for some packs for you, and I just kind of like laughed. I'm like, we can't even get them on the internet right now. Like,
That's
unless we're
awesome.
paying a ton of money, they're not going to have them at Target. But
That's
she's like,
awesome.
I didn't know. How would I
That's
know?
awesome.
Yeah, it
Oh
was
man.
funny.
So I'm curious, as you've played Magic the Gathering for what, 20 years now? I mean, 20.
Yeah, I play Magic the Gathering. I mean, since the start. Like
Yeah.
I played. Well, let me put it this way. I started buying and collecting like in alpha because this guy had alpha and beta cards, and he was just like giving them out. Like, here, take a stack of cards, learn to play the game. Like he was doing what all of us are trying to do right now.
Yeah.
He was giving cards away, and then people would look at that and go, "Oh, that's crazy." But back then, those cards weren't anything. I've told this story before, and other people like Rudy have told it. I think it's the guys like me who are almost 40 years old and been around a while. Um, I used to watch people open packs of Arabian Night, and they would get the card they needed, and they would throw the pack away.
Oh my
So they
gosh.
would open like a jackal pup or something, and they would be like, oh, I got a wolf, sweet, and they just chuck the rest of the cards. And that's why a lot of those cards are so hard to find
Yeah.
because not only was the print run low, people literally threw cards away when they got doubles. What were they gonna do? Sell them?
Yeah.
That's why, like now with Flesh and Blood, there's outlets and places to sell those singles and sell some of their cards, but that didn't exist in 93, 94. So
Yeah.
what would you do with them? And that's what I'm doing now with like my cards. I recently got rid of pretty much everything Magic I've owned,
Wow.
except for a few Commander decks. Yeah, I'm telling you, dude, I went all in on Flesh and Blood. I kept 6 Commander decks and a stack of rares that were important to me. Some cards that I like Mark Poole, some cool things that I've had throughout the years. But everything else I just got rid of, and a lot of them I gave away. I'm like, here, try this game. It's cool.
Yeah.
Gave them to my neighbor kid. And Flesh and Blood, I'm doing the same thing. I just went through all those boxes I opened, and I got a stack of probably about 100 to 150 cards. I got 4 different stacks like Wizard, Ranger, Mechanologist, Runeblade, and I'm going to give those away on my channel. But it's stacks to get people started. It'll be
Yeah.
enough cards where if 2 winners get, let's say, 300 cards, they'll have 150 Runeblade, 150 Ranger. They can play with some.
Yeah.
Enough cards where they can build a deck together.
Yeah.
Because that was my hardest thing, man, getting into this game was Rudy kept mentioning it, I couldn't find product anywhere. Like
Right.
literally anywhere.
Yeah, it's great, and it's awesome to see the community as a whole. I mean, you're doing it, I'm doing it, but everybody is doing it. Like Facebook Marketplace, you can get on there and say, "Hey, does anybody have comments?" And people will be like, "Yeah, I've got a stack of them. I'll send them to you." What
Yeah,
I'm doing is just I started trying. I was gonna build like pre-con decks to give out to people, and
sure.
then I was like, "Oh my gosh, this takes way too much time." So what I've just started doing is every box opening just giving away the comments and first person to email me. I'm like backlogged like 4 boxes right now, right? Like but like for me it's easier because I don't have to spend the time sorting them. But
Yes,
the goal is for you as a person who gets them to say, okay, I'm going to teach my friend, my play group, here's a stack, in a box of comments, a full box full of comments, you can build almost all 4 decks that are in that set. So and then just
sure.
that's what I did to teach my friends. So I love that everyone is coming together to like make the game work. And there are supply issues, and that's one of the things I feel like I've been trying to do on my channel is say like, yes, there are issues, but there are issues because the game's so good, and that's what Magic was back then, right? Like the game was
It
so
totally
good.
was.
It,
It
and
totally was. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
well, and like back then they didn't know how to print cards, right? Like nobody had done a trading card game at that scale. And now we're
Yep.
going through the same problem, except for the problem is nobody knows how to do it in the middle of a pandemic, right? Like
Yeah.
that's the issue. So it's kind of cool how everything's.
I'll tell you what, Louis, it's very similar to how it was in the early 90s with that. And like I've heard Rudy say it a few times, a lot of people who weren't around then, they won't remember it. And people are saying Flesh and Blood's this bubble, and that the reason there's no cards available and it's hard to get is because people are hoarding it, selling it for outrageous prices. Well, yeah, that's part of the thing. We didn't have the internet back then like it is now. So that is a big part of what's different. But why are you going to blame Legend Story Studios for that? And specifically, I've seen people blame James White for that and say, "Oh, he is just trying to run this game and print it to make people think that it's worth money." And just this nonsense and negativity people are talking about. And Bronson just did a video today. And he was talking about. He showed like a James White video of him in a tournament
Yeah.
and talking about how important Flesh and Blood was in the community and how he started. And it's just like all of us. It's the same way we all got into these games.
Yeah.
Trying to make it seem like someone who started this game and the company is some kind of like con artist or something. I don't understand that mentality. Like
Which is
this dude put all his time, his hard-earned money. They're positive. They have positive liquid cash. They owe no debt, and the family, his whole family and relatives are in. Why are you going to act like this is such a negative thing? And I think it's because they see people like Rudy who makes jokes and stuff, and people on the internet take everything serious.
yeah.
They read everything as it is at face value, and they don't really look beyond that.
Yeah, and the other side of the coin too is that the whole Magic the Gathering community is so negative right now because of the
Yes,
state of the game of Magic the Gathering, and then they
yes,
see excitement happening in another card game, which is still very small. Like I was kind of taken aback. Like I feel like we get in this in our own world where like, oh my gosh, Flesh
we
and Blood,
do,
the Flesh and
we
Blood is
do,
so big, it's amazing, it's the
yeah,
biggest card game in
we
the world,
do.
and then like the Facebook group has 3,000 people in it, right? Like
No,
it's just not that big yet, but the excitement is
yep,
massive, and the people who have tried it, like I haven't like I haven't met anybody that's really given it a shot and been like that wasn't fun. Like everyone who plays it, even if they don't stick with it, we're like, no, that was a really tight card game. I mean, they spent 7 years developing it, right? Like
yeah,
it is a developed, really tight card game. And if you compare that to Magic the Gathering, like because of the age of Magic the Gathering, there's so many. It's so convoluted now, and Flesh and
yeah.
Blood feels so pure, and like that's what I love about it. Is like,
It does. What's it's funny you mentioned that because that leads me to another point that I want to go off on is go off on a tangent about is we get ourselves in like these silos and people do it at work at the college I work at all the time. It's like this is my kingdom, don't touch it. This is my kingdom, and you're right. People are so negative about Magic, and I still love Magic. I didn't get rid of all of my cards. I
yeah,
kept the cards that I wanted, and I still want to play. But the problem is I don't right now during COVID, especially. I rarely got with friends. The last time I played together or got together and played a game of Commander with someone was 2017. I don't have friends locally. I'm in Northern Ohio. It's a friggin' wasteland out here. There's nothing here. It's just fields. Now I love it because it's quiet and stuff, but
yeah.
there's nothing out here. So I can't really go to my LGS with COVID. My friends can't come over. So I ended up just playing kitchen table with my wife, and we'll play a few games of whatever here and there. But that's what attracted me with Flesh and Blood is we can play like 15, 20-minute blitz games and be done and go do whatever with the kids.
Yeah.
We didn't have to sit here for 2 hours and play a commander game.
Yeah.
So I was looking for something I could play quickly that was challenging and fun. She really knew nothing about Magic, and she was kicking my ass with like the little Planeswalker decks. And I've been playing for 25 years, and I'm like, nope, this is not fun, you know?
Was COVID the first time that you were able to get your wife to play Magic?
No, actually,
Okay.
what's funny is she always teases me and calls me a nerd, and she says, you hid that stuff from me before we were together. And I'm like, no, dear, I did not. Because here's what happened. To make a long story short, we knew each other in high school. She had a crush on me forever. We went our separate ways, and when I broke up with the girl I was with, she kind of swooped in on me
Yeah.
and we started dating. So we knew each other. Our families knew each other. And there was a picture of us that she took on the football field when I think I was a senior, and we were like 3 years difference in school, but only 2 years in age. So there's like a picture of her standing next to me on the football field, and I got like a Dragon Ball Z shirt, and I'm holding a Game Pro magazine, and I'm like, if you didn't know that I was a nerd, that's like obvious right there, man.
I was
That's the
not
proof.
trying to hide anything.
No. So like in 2010, we moved in together in like 2008. We got married in 2010. And right after we got married, I was like, we settled in here, and I was like, you know what? I think I'm gonna start playing Magic again. And they opened up a shop near me. The same guy who's ran an
Yeah.
LGS forever in this town. He's opened up a bunch of them. He opened one up close by here, and I was hooked again. I was buying. This will make you sick. I was buying Zendikar and Rise of Eldrazi boxes at $85 each, and I opened probably like 4 or 5 of each of them, and now I'm like sealed, you know, like they were
Yeah.
first print run Zendikar and stuff too. It was like the first stuff that was shipped out, and I opened them, and
That's awesome.
you
I
know,
don't. That does not make me feel bad, man. You enjoyed the cards.
yeah, I know
That's
I enjoyed the cards. That's the thing. Yeah,
that's the thing about what's happened with Flesh and Blood. It's only been a year, and an alpha box is worth $4,000. You know what I mean? But like, bad. That's not feel bad. I mean, you had years of enjoying those cards, and uh,
yeah.
I don't know. It would be cool to have a sealed box of Zendikar, but um,
I know, like, and every time I've had this plan of keeping sealed product, dude, I can't. I open it. Like,
yeah,
I bought my wife a MacBook Air for Valentine's Day, and I told her about it yesterday because I just couldn't wait. So, like,
yeah,
I'm the kind of person that gives Christmas gifts like on Halloween, so
yeah.
I
Can't
can't
keep
do
stuff
sealed
hidden.
product. Like, yeah, I
I'm
just
the
crack
opposite.
it, and I'm addicted. I can't do it.
I got into collecting sealed magic product about 3 years ago. When I started watching Rudy, I kind of I bought the allure of it not just for the financial impact, but the idea of like when I want to draft in the future, like, and I don't spend much time drafting now, but my goal is that I can get my play group to like start drafting, and like when my kids start playing, like it'd be cool to draft sets that were out when I was learning and stuff like that.
I
Uh,
agree.
and
Yep.
the same thing with Flesh and Blood. But the key was I started realizing, hey, I could make some money off of it, and start thinking through like the financial side of Magic the Gathering, knowing that stuff usually goes up, and so then I started doing some of that too. But then
Yeah.
with Flesh and Blood, I was like, that's actually what got me into Flesh and Blood. I know like people get upset about that, like the investors or the whales or whatever, but like I think there's a huge group of people who play this game now because their first reaction was only to invest in it, and like that's where I was. Like my first interaction with Flesh and Blood was a a, a guy who was like, "Hey, first edition Arcane Rising, there's a sale going on. Uh, WTR is doing really good. You guys want to buy some? Like whatever." And so I hopped in. I was like, "Yeah, why not?" And then I started watching people actually open the product. I was like, "Oh my gosh! Like I gotta get in on like
Yeah.
seeing the actual cards," and that's what got me
Yeah.
into Crucible of War. And then I opened 21 boxes of Crucible of War. I couldn't keep them sealed. Like I couldn't like I just couldn't. I
Well,
just kept buying them. I couldn't stop.
see, it's funny that you mentioned that about Crucible of War too. So I'll kind of touch on that real quick about my experience with Flesh and Blood. So not only did I get into it for the quick games, but that was the afterthought. The initial thought was this, okay? I've only been doing this for less than a month now. I've only been into Flesh and Blood for less than a month now. So I'm fairly new to the game.
Yeah,
And I would say that even though I'm like early in making stuff and like now it's starting to get big. So we'll all kind of be early to the punch, but um what brought me to it was I was watching Rudy's videos, and no other card game really looked interesting to me. But once he kind of explained like the back and forth and how things work,
Yeah.
it seemed more, and like the Diablo-esque feel of it. I was like, dude, this seems like a game I could get into. And my turning point was it was a mix of like investment and the cards look cool. So I was like, let's get some because of that. But I got some of those new foil etch cards that Magic was doing,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, dude, these look terrible. Why is
Yeah.
the whole like the image
The
is
entire
washed out? Like
thing.
you foil etch the whole card, and then when I saw what the cold foils looked like, I'm like, this is how it's done.
Yeah.
This is how I imagined it would be done.
Yeah.
So I wanted to get some of those cards, and you're right. It wasn't that I wanted to resell them. That wasn't. I guess people a lot of times when they think investment, they think they're investing to necessarily like sell them at some point. But I think investing can be looked at two ways: short term, long term, or investing just because you like the product. You don't mind investing, dumping your money into it and letting it sit until the day that you decide maybe I'm too old for this, or maybe I'm not into it.
Yeah.
And then you can make your money. And that was my goal. My goal was to get into it at that point, buy a box and see what I got. So I opened that Crucible box. I paid $120 for it. And I think I may have told you this in a message. I paid $120. I think I left you a comment about it. It would have been forever ago. But I paid like $120, and I think it was the next day or a day later, I went to buy another one, and it was at $350.
Oh yeah, it was right when that spike happened.
Yeah, I'm like, what happened? So I had already ordered a bunch of unlimited stuff, so I knew that was coming. But I opened this Crucible of War box, and I got like a foil Gorgonian Tome, and then I got a cold foil Courage of Bladehold,
Oh my gosh.
a cold foil Redliner, and the other one I got, Spoils of War. I mean, dude, this box was like a $2,000 box of cards. It was like insane, or whatever the estimated cost of all the singles would be now. But yeah, I opened that up, and when I opened that up and saw that Courage of Bladehold was like $150 at the time, I was like, I just got my money back. Yeah. And then I looked 2 weeks ago, and it was like $600, and I'm like, what? What is going on here? You know?
And that's the difference with that and Magic is like you open a box of Magic and you might, if you get lucky, break even, as opposed to like the concept. Like you can, right now in Flesh and Blood, I think your EV on an unlimited box, if in my videos, like I've got it at sitting like $80 to $90 for even an unlimited if you don't hit the legendary. So you get some of your money. I mean, it feels better than a Magic box. And that's for unlimited. Never mind the cold foil stuff, which it'll be interesting to see what happens with Monarch, but
sure,
it's just crazy. So yeah, dude, Crucible was a fantastic set to open. Like it felt so good to open that set compared to the other two because like you get one majestic foil per case in the other one, and then this one you're like, majestic foil. It's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, it was a really cool, and like what's funny is I was watching, I forget whose video I watched. You know who it might have been? It might have been Red Zone Rogue.
Yeah.
And I was watching one of his videos, and he said, if you want to buy a box, and this is specifically the reason I did it. He said, if you want to buy a box, because you're just starting out, you want to buy Arcane Rising or Welcome to Wrath Unlimited box. He said it's the cheapest entryway in. He said, but remember, Crucible of War is like an add-on set. And the way Crucible of War is it has like, it's going to have the cold foils, but the rest aren't. But as a new player, you don't want that. I'm like, sold immediately. It has cold foils in it. I want to see what they look like. I want to see if I get one,
100%.
So I bought one. Yeah, I bought one right away because of that. But like my luck, my addiction to this has become like the two Wrath boxes I opened were incredible. I got like Enlightened Strikes and Toma Fyendels in those, and I'm like, these were great. And then all four boxes, I don't want to spoil the last one because I just opened that on camera, but my first box was an Arcanite Skullcap. Second was the Eye of Ophidia. And third was and then the third was an Arcanite Skullcap again. So I've opened in 3 boxes. Is that your Eye of Ophidia checklist?
That's my Arc Unlimited. I just did the math today. 12 boxes I've opened. It's just 1 of 40, so I'm still sitting pretty. But 2 boxes and you opened an Eye? You crazy.
First one, and that's why I wanted to start making videos. I got so excited about it because I didn't open them on camera, and I was so mad.
So it doesn't count. So I don't even believe you.
I know, right? You want to go? You stay here.
No, I don't believe you. Where's he going? I'm not editing this. It better be quick. I don't believe him, everybody. That's crazy. All right, let's talk. I've done 12 boxes of Arcane Unlimited and
Not bad.
15 boxes of
Okay.
WTR and no heart and no eye.
Here's the Courage of Blade Hold
Yeah, yeah,
cold
yeah.
foil. Okay. And then I got my Eye of Ophidia.
Beautiful. It's gorgeous. That's probably the only Eye of Ophidia that's ever going to be on my channel.
Yeah, and then I got these two.
Nice. Oh
Arcanines.
yeah, two skull. Yeah, dude, I can't pull any other legendary. I've pulled 3 skull caps.
Yeah, I just got super lucky. That's what hooked me, man. What
Yeah.
hooked me was the fact that every box I opened, it was like magic. It was like winning the lottery. Not magic like Magic the Gathering. It was like magic. I'm like, how am I pulling these cards that everyone's talking about?
You're gonna have to slow down though, because that's not gonna happen every box.
I know, I know. I got one more.
You're gonna have to
Welcome to
find
Round
something else
Unlimited
to be
box coming.
excited about.
Yeah, I cut the Arcane Rising boxes off, dude. Three of the boxes had legendaries, one had a fabled. I'm like, no more Arcane Rising. I've done enough.
Keep that one for sealed, your last box in your case, if you got a case. That's funny. So I'm curious, like, what do you feel about the gameplay? Are you like, what is it like the one thing that you love about the gameplay in terms of? You don't have to compare it to Magic, but I think it's easily
Sure.
comparable. So, what hooks you in the gameplay?
I like the back and forth of being able to like defend and being able to react. I like it feels like you're actually the best way I can describe it, and I described it to a friend of mine who plays a lot of games with me is and he's really into I don't know if you know the game Sekiro Shadows Die Twice.
Mm-mm.
He's like super into this game Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, and it's a From Software game, and they make great games like Dark Souls and all that. But in that game, it's a lot of like deflecting and blocking and parrying and timing that's like perfect. And if you're like off just a little bit, you get absolutely annihilated.
Yeah,
So this game gave me that feeling of like a lot of back and forth defense reactions and timing and trying to figure out more of like not really getting into the person's head like Magic is, but more than like, okay, let's try to see how they may attack next, and you're more thinking about what you're going to do your next turn rather than what that person is planning at.
mm,
Which in Magic, it's always like some big combo or some big blowout. You're
right. That you can't do anything about.
yeah, yeah. Especially nowadays, the cards are so overpowered. I looked
Yeah,
at Call Time and I'm like,
yeah. The game's made for arena now. That's the problem. Yeah, I totally agree, dude. The
right,
interaction is such a cool part of that game of Flesh and
yeah,
Blood. I
yeah,
For me it was not getting land screwed because every time I ever play at an LGS, like one or two of my games, I either draw only lands or no lands, and that drove me nuts in Magic. And so the idea that like your deck is always good, it's always consistent, it will play the way it's supposed to play, and there's no feel bad games like that for me.
yeah,
And when I tell people, I'm like, the number one thing you need to know about Flesh and Blood is you won't feel bad after you play it. If you are playing equally powered decks or whatever, your game's going to be close. You're not going to get blown out. You're not going to, you know, destroy the other person. Like the game is so balanced because of the amount of interaction you have in your hand to do things. Exactly what you're saying.
well, and it reminds me of like so being able to like equip the equipment that you want. It reminds me of early Magic. How like early Magic when I was a kid, I didn't have the most expensive cards. I didn't have the best cards, but you always had the cards you needed to play the game. Like you always could get creatures, instant sorceries. They may not have been the best,
Right.
but the artwork was always incredible, and you could always make a deck and play and have fun. Flesh and Blood's the same way, but the part about it that really reminds me of Magic is that fact that I can get a bunch of crappy equipment in a pack and I can still use that to play an awesome game. I don't have to worry about like my land or this or that, like you're saying. I don't have to worry that, oh, wait, I want to play this deck, but I need to get more swamps. As a kid, that was a big deal. You couldn't just go out and get like a bunch of swamps from someone. I had to
Right.
open packs or I had to go to a card shop. So with this game, being able to not have to worry about lands and being able to manage your resources when you decide and how you decide is the biggest thing for me. That's what I really
Yeah. And I think also maybe it's just because I play Ninja as my main kind of constructed deck, but it feels so much like um what's the game? I've said it a million times. Mortal Kombat. Like the game, like when you
yeah,
play, it feels like Mortal Kombat with cards. Like
yeah,
you're like each
yep.
thing is a button and there's the combo. And it's like it just feels fun. Like it's just like all in all like a really fun, exciting thing. And it's like again, it's fun as heck to collect and to open packs and to like whatever, and that's what's I think driving a lot of collectors. But then once you
Sure.
sit down and play the game, you're like, oh wait, like this is not just fancy. Like this is smart and intelligent. And I think what I love what people say, and it's that it's easier to learn than Magic, but harder to master the Magic. And that's how I feel like. I feel like I'm terrible at the game. Like I'm horrible at Flesh and Blood, but I know how to
Well,
play.
we
Like
all were.
yeah, we're
You
all
know,
in,
at first we all are at everything. Like,
yeah, and like with the not being able, like I played Magic like 2 or 3 times a week back before everything was happening, and so now it's like I've only played what like 15, 20, 25 games of Flesh and Blood. And it's like I just don't have the consistency of being able to play because I'm still teaching people, and then anybody that I play with hasn't played before. Like I'm the guy teaching, and I'm not good at it. So,
sure.
uh,
I mean, and most of my games have been me like play testing against myself, or like telling my wife what to do. Like it has. I haven't really sat down and played a game with someone like you who already knows the game. Like
yeah,
that's why I'm excited for this pandemic to end, is we can do that. And I'd like to get like a camera and do this like people are playing over Discord and stuff. Like that'd be sweet. I just need to figure out how to do it, because I'd like to do some of that now just to be able to play with people. But it still doesn't feel the same. I grew up playing
yeah,
at the kitchen table or playing in an LGS, so I don't
hundred
I don't
percent
really
agree with you.
know, you know.
Yeah, it does not feel the same. I mean, I did a stream with DM Armada and we played, and it was fun.
Yeah,
Like, don't get me wrong, like I had a ton of fun playing, but
sure.
maybe it's just that I'm a content creator and I was also like responding to the live chat and like trying to put the cards up to make sure people could read them and like
Hard
stuff
to
like that.
enjoy.
But like also you're not like you don't have that interaction and like the seeing the look on the face of the person when you pull off like I
Yeah.
pulled off a sweet combo in game 2 and like he didn't have a face cam which whatever but like I wanted to see his like facial expression. It just didn't
To
exist.
that, yeah.
And like I'm like I'm sure people have caught on to this. Like I'm like a very sarcastic, like I'll rub your nose that I just beat you. I'll let you rub my nose in it when you beat me.
Sure.
Like I can take it as much as I dish it, but like
Sure.
I like to be like, hey man, how about that combo, right? Like I mean, like
Yeah, yeah,
and you just
yeah.
don't have that interaction when you're on a webcam. It's just not as much fun. So, I
No, like that last Commander game I played, like I was telling you, it was like 2017. I've been building decks since then. Haven't even got to test them out, you know. And I had a friend that was playing a Sens Triplets deck, and Sens Triplets is just terrible in Commander, but he's
yeah
like a very turtley player, and I filled him up with poison counters. He's
yeah
like, I'm like, yeah. How's Sens Triplets now? You wouldn't get that same thing over a webcam. Yeah,
yeah. So, are you when you talk about Magic, are you more of a like competitive legacy modern, or are you more commander?
more Commander. I used to be more of like the standard player. Like I always like to do sealed, and I always like to do drafts. That was like where my main thing was. I never really played like competitively, but I would always go to my LGS, meet my friends there and do Friday night stuff. But when we were playing Kitchen Table, it's always been Commander since 2015, somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much. Before that, it was more like old school Kitchen Table, like I played when I was a kid. I just throw cards together from whatever I wanted to and build a deck and sit here and play with my friends. So
Yeah.
wasn't really worried about if it was legal or whatever. We would just play with whatever we had.
Yeah, I'm hoping that the PVE stuff that people keep talking about in Flesh and Blood ends up like that because I think that's I know Ultimate Fight Pit is Ultimate Pit Fight whatever one it is I can't keep
Yeah.
track. I think it's
Yeah.
Ultimate Fight Pit.
Ultimate Pit Fight. Yep.
Yeah, whatever. I know that's like supposed to be multiplayer and stuff, and I'm sure that's a lot of fun. I've only played one game, and it was with people who had never played. I'm actually gonna be playing a game here in a couple weeks, which I'm excited about. But uh, I don't know that that fits the gap of Commander because Commander is so much different, and the card pool, for Magic the Gathering is so large. It's kind of cool. So
Yeah.
I'm really hoping that the PVE content that people keep hinting at or talking about actually is fruitioned, and then that it kind of garnishes that kind of kitchen table fun. Get together with your friends. Can't wait to get together and play. And because I don't like competitive Commander. Like my whole thing about Commander is like let's just have as much fun as we can. I want to kind of I don't try to combo off, but I like to have like really big turns where I'm doing a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like
Fun stuff. Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever played many other board games, but like there's a game called Scythe that I really like and it's just like a lot of fun to sit at the table and do something together. And then there's Imperial Assault, which is like a kind of D&D Star
I've heard
Wars.
of that one. Yeah.
Like you're working together to fight there's one person is the Empire, and like you're working together to fight them, and like I could see some really cool stuff that could come out of like a PvE type thing. And
Yeah, for sure. Well, and like you were saying, Commander's very different than like this ultimate pit fight thing that Flesh and Blood does. And I the way I see it is my niche for that type of game is already filled by Commander.
yeah.
So I'm fine. It doesn't mean I won't try it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll definitely try it if I have people to play with. But I have a hard time finding games of Commander to play with people, and I love that game.
Yeah.
So if I already love that game and want to play that, I'm not going to try to do two of those at the same time.
Hmm.
But what I was missing and what I wasn't getting from Magic, and I even tried playing Pauper to get back into Magic with more of the fast game. It just still didn't feel fast and fun, and it felt very underwhelming. And
Yeah.
going from that to Flesh and Blood, I'm like, boom, there it is. I can play Blitz. Blitz is what I'm doing. Blitz is my format. I have to really be like rigid and stick with one format, or I will get out of control with my spending. Get out of control with the decks I build.
Yeah.
I mean, I had like 14 Commander decks at one time, and I hadn't played probably 12 of them. So it got insane, and it got to the point where I had these cards that were sitting in my closet collecting dust, and it was a big chunk of money that I ended up getting rid of to buy part of my truck and to get some stuff done to the house and to invest a little bit in Flesh and Blood. So I got rid of all my good stuff, but I don't miss it, honestly. Yeah. I'm excited to be into this new thing.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's a good time to sell Magic cards, man. Everything's up right now. As good of a time as it is to own Flesh and Blood cards, it's also a good time to sell Magic cards because the market's so hot. And I do stuff on TCG Player with Magic, so and a little bit of Flesh and Blood. When I have extra cards that aren't in my collection, but it's like you put cards up and they just sell. I mean, it's like unbelievable how many people are involved in the collectible world right now. And
it really is. I buy listed all my cards, to be honest. I buy listed everything the Card King. Their prices were insanely high, and it was right after. Remember when the pandemic hit? They stopped buying old cards.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, a couple months ago, they started buying them all back, and the prices were crazy. Yeah. I mean, I had a revised Plateau I paid like $60 for, and that was like a year ago. And I sold it to them for $240. So I'm like, why would I not? Yeah. Like buy list price. I mean, that means they're selling it for at least like over $300. So it's crazy. So I unloaded all that stuff, and I don't have anything of value other than my Flesh and Blood collection and my Commander.
Yeah, that's awesome. I still been playing. I'm trying to play Commander with my friends. We were supposed to play last night, but it didn't happen. But I'm like, every time we get together, I'm like, hey guys, you should really play Flesh and Blood instead because it's a superior game. Like it's just so much more fun.
It really is. It's so much more fun.
And it's hard though.
And you know what? I think Magic has the chance to. They've done some cool things in the past. Like I think it was like those Graveborn decks or whatever they did.
Yeah.
And then they did like the big card. I don't know, whatever it was. Plane Chase. It was like So like they've done cool stuff in the past, and I think they could do that now. I just think they're falling into this trap of Hasbro trying to get a ton of money out of this product that right now is super popular. And they know people will still buy them without having to change card quality and all these other issues. And what I really like about Flesh and Blood, as far as the way they're running their business too, is like, I messaged them about two cards that are only worth like $1 each. And I'm like, can I mail these back to you and get replacements? Because there was like a big line in them.
Yeah.
And they were like, yes, send it back to us. We'll not only send you the cards, but we're going to give you a few packs of cards to cover shipping.
Awesome. Yeah, that's awesome.
I'm like, dude, that's awesome. And there's another guy on YouTube here does Flesh and Blood content named Cobra Pearl. And he just did a video recently where he did the same thing. He sent a legendary in that. They gave him a new one. They gave him like 8 packs of cards. I mean,
yeah, that's awesome. I can't get them to replace my shard though, but that's all right. I'm not that salty about it.
Oh, what was wrong with the shard?
It's got like 3 marks on the top. It's fine. I have a whole video about it. It's fine.
Like
it's
white,
not a big
white marks. Like
yeah, I mean it's like they printed the card and it came out and they said a lot of them have it, but I am not at all upset about it. I get it. And I'm fine. Like
well,
I the only reason I did it was because I saw the thing. I was like, let's test it out. Let's do it.
Sure. Sure.
But, yeah.
Well, and like that was I would say that was the only part that I thought was kind of strange. Like I had a Spoils of War and it had some little like chips on the top, like you're talking about, right in the middle
Yeah.
of the card. And they're like, well, that's just considered near mint. So like we're not going to basically give you a new card for that. But
Yeah.
then with these cards with the major indent lines, I think it's because like with the indent lines, they can prove that like a machine did that versus
Yeah.
like, oh, I just opened the pack and scuffed it with my fingernail or something.
That's how it is in trading cards, man. That's if every card was a 10 point, a
I'm
full PSA 10, then you don't have any PSA 10s or BGS 10s or whatever.
Yeah,
So I mean, it is what it is.
and it's cardboard, you know.
I
So
I
like in the
paid,
end, we all got to remember it's just cardboard, and one day
yeah,
it's all going to be just probably rotten in a landfill somewhere anyway. So
yeah.
enjoy it while it's
I
here, man.
opened it in a box. So I wasn't that concerned about it. So
That's awesome. Well, how many boxes of Crucible did
I
it take for you to get?
I don't remember what number I opened. I opened 21 boxes of Crucible.
Yeah.
I think that was like 13 or 14. Um, but
Wow.
yeah, no, it was fun. I didn't pull any in 21 boxes. Didn't pull any full art 20 blades, and
Wow.
I didn't
Really?
pull any Cheyennas. Um, so I purchased Cheyenne, but I finished my collection after that. But
Did you
uh,
purchase Cheyenne when it was still somewhat
yeah,
low?
so I finished my collection. Finished purchasing my collection the week before Crucible skyrocketed. So
Yeah.
I just did a video about this a couple weeks ago, but like literally by the time it was in all USPS was everything was running slow. By the time I ordered the cards,
Oh,
it was
I
like
did see that. Yeah.
$240 worth of cards. By the time I got it, it was like
Yeah.
900 or 1,000. I was like, oh my gosh, I
Well,
felt bad for
that
the
first
seller.
video, that first video I did of that Crucible of War opening, when I opened that box, like I said, the Courage of Bladehold was like 150 bucks. The
Yeah,
Redliner Cold Foil was $10. And that first video, I'm going through the pricing of like, oh, this is how much it is, and this is how much it is. And then a week later, I'm like, what
by the time
happened?
you
Like,
posted it.
what is going on with all this money? I was like insane, you know.
That's funny.
Yeah, I guess I got in like right at the right time, but I could only get one box of Crucible, and I'm so sad about that because I would have loved to have at least a case of.
Yeah, it's a great set, and there's so much cool stuff in it. But dude, like
Yeah,
Monarch's gonna come out. The beauty of a collectible card game is that even when you miss out, there's things to look forward to, and
no,
like
for sure.
the you can buy your singles, and then that's for anybody. Like obviously, that you've been in Magic the Gathering for 25 years, but like the beauty is you can always get in on the next set, and
Yeah,
but dude, this was
yeah,
fun, and we are at 45 minutes. So I want to keep it
nice, dude.
kind of keep it there. But dude, that's not give. Let's give people wanting more. You know what I mean? Like we got to leave them wanting more. And I'm excited. Maybe we can. Like I said, maybe we get together some point once COVID's over. We're relatively close to each other. Meet up at.
Dude, I would love that. I was gonna say we're always down. You probably know where Zor, Ohio is.
Yeah.
Yeah, we go to Zor a lot, and we go to Point Pleasant a lot, West Virginia. So
Oh, dude, Point Pleasant is 25 minutes from me.
yeah, we're in Point Pleasant like a couple times a year. Like we love that place. We go there all the time for the Mothman stuff. It's fun
Yeah.
as hell. So we'll definitely we got to get together. We're
Yeah.
not that far away from each other. We
Yeah.
need to. Yeah,
Play some card games, and
for
it'll be a
sure.
ton of fun. But just a reminder to everyone, if you're still watching, leave us a little comment on both of our videos and say Mothman, what's the Mothman? And then make sure you subscribe to our channels. Make sure you're reaching out and encouraging each other and everything. And make sure you're just loving all the content creators. I think that's both of our hearts. We were talking about that a little bit
For
before
sure.
and off camera, just like how excited we are for the community of Flesh and Blood. And
Yeah.
dude, thank you for what you do. Thank you for all the time you put into your
Thank you,
videos.
man. This has been great, and this really means a lot to me. And I appreciate being able to get together with all the content creators and do this. This is lots of, and if I can return the favor in any way, I already try to plug people and tell you guys, on comments and stuff. Hey, have you heard of this person? They do flesh.
Yeah.
So
Well, you're awesome, man. Thanks everybody for watching. We will see you next video. You have anything to say to everybody before we hang up?
no, guys, bye for now. Thank you so much.
It's always awkward to end a video. I'm stopping it.
I know, right?